Welcome to the Learning Reinvented Podcast, brought to you by myself, James Politilo.
And Katie Godham from The Learning Effect. There are lots of learning podcasts out there, so we wanted to do something slightly different. This week, I'm talking to fellow host James about The Learning Effect, so our company and why we exist.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. This episode sort of came out of a post that we saw on LinkedIn last week, and the post was talking about why there should be a different way of approaching selecting and buying technology in the learning space. And it sort of pointed out some of those questions. But what it prompted back to me is that question that you often asked about what is it you do for a job. And, we probably all had that situation where you have to go in to explain to your parents or grandparents or someone else completely outside of your industry, what is it you do? And it can be really hard and difficult. And I know certainly in my career early on, I'd speak to my mum and she'd be like, well, you work in training or learning. What is it you're teaching today? And I'm like, well, I've never really been a teacher. That's not the space I've operated in. But I think one of the things we find is that far too often we're still having to explain to clients what it is we do and the value we add. And I get why that is, because if you think, the learning effect is there to help you improve your learning, help you improve how your organization delivers business impact. When we set up the business, we were looking at really focusing on that link from learning to performance and business performance, not performance management. But as soon as you talk to a client, they just assume that you're going to be talking about content or you're going to be delivering programs, or if we're talking in the tech space, that you're just trying to find a tech solution, which I think misses the point a little bit about the value that we add and where our focus is. And I find that both frustrating because it means that if people are looking at us, they're often not even in the space of comprehending where we might add value. But secondly, I find it really engaging and interesting because when we get into those conversations with people, there is often a real penny drop moment where someone is listening to the value we add or responding to the questions we will ask them during an initial discovery conversation. And suddenly it becomes really apparent to them that there's this whole world of problems that maybe they're stuck in and part of without meaning to be, that we can help them work through.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think the preconceptions around kind of what our business does is the hardest thing. So one being a kind of small consultancy. So you kind of link consultants with those people that are going to come in, work for 6 months and do a bit of work on a project and then leave. So we've got that preconception about, and are we similar to that, which we're not. Learning in general as well, like you said, everyone always thinks that means that we're going to go away and do some training. The question that I get asked a lot is always, oh, so what training do you do? What do you actually teach? And I was like, it's not quite like that. It doesn't work like that. We help people with learning as a whole and what they're actually going to be producing for their organization and strategy, etc. So yeah, I think the preconceptions around us and our business are definitely the things that don't potentially help us.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because you're probably stringing a load of words together almost in learning and strategy and all sorts of things. And they're probably really misunderstood terms or misused terms in businesses, because people all think, learning means X, automatically classroom or something being told or something I have to learn. You then get into learning technology and e-learning comes with its own level of baggage. And then strategy is one of those words that people don't really get, strategy, plan, initiative, whatever it happens to be. And there's all these things swelling around. So it's, how do we boil that down to people as to where we add value? And I think the easiest way to look at it is actually the role of a learning team is really, really difficult because you are stuck in the heart of a business. So you're part of the business, you're part of the politics, you're often stuck in a place where you're often reporting in through an HR team, which may or may not understand what you do, may or may not have at the top of what they're doing that performance or learning agenda. You're normally picking up some level of existing offer, and that offer is normally a set of courses and activities and programs and initiatives and all of those things. So automatically you're created of, I've got a load of delivery that I'm doing, but then as a function, where is it that we really impact businesses? And that's where we always try to start, is understanding what it is your business is trying to achieve and what do your people need to be doing to help achieve those aims. So where's the business going? What does it do well? What does it not? What's the culture of that business? And then from there, thinking about everything within your learning ecosystem. And I use that term to mean not just the tech, but the culture, the people, the roles, the content you have within that, the empowerment, not just the big tools you use in terms of things like an e-learning system, an authoring tool, or any of those other things, because the world has moved on so much that there's multiple tools that could be part of that approach that you're taking. And ultimately, we're also quite a bad industry at sharing what good looks like. So you operating in your business will only be seeing, as we all do on things like LinkedIn and other social media, people showing off how well they're doing, but there's no underpinning substance to them telling you what we're doing really well. We've had X number of people go through this, we've launched a new program, we're doing this. You get almost that LinkedIn, the images of people doing events showcasing where they're just showing, actually we had 40 people in a room, everyone get together, put thumbs up to the camera and show what a great time you're having doing insights profiling or whatever else it happens to be. And if you step back and look at that and say, actually, let's step into the role of the CEO or the CFO and look at what value are we adding to the business and how are we moving the needle. Let's step into the role of an employee and think, how are you really enabling me and empowering me to deliver performance? And doing those couple of things really helps clients see how they can be transforming what they're offering, because there are completely different ways of impacting performance that are not a learning program or an e-learning course or putting in a learning system. And it's getting back to that and trying to work out what's going to be differentiating for the organization, which is where we start. And that's the consultancy part, and that's the strategy part of pulling it back. And having that as a starting point, you can then reflect back through every activity or every action you're taking in your learning team to think about, is that adding real value? Is there something else we should be doing or focusing on? So that's why that piece is so important. And then going with that piece to the rest of a project empowers you to be far more confident, directive, and to navigate both the internal and external politics you will face in trying to enhance your learning function and become far more impactful and results focused.
I think one of our big things as well is that you're talking about that we really start to understand the organization and the purpose. And I think people always tend to ask us, have you got templates on this? But we generally don't, because everyone's unique and everything's more bespoke, because not one size fits all for all of our customers. Parts of it might do and elements might do, and we might follow a kind of a sort of template, but not everyone's going to fit into that template, and that's fine. And I think that's how we approach things. And I think it's people understanding that as well. We're really understanding their business, and it is unique and it is bespoke, and we really get involved in that, so we're able to deliver the best results to then improve performance essentially from clients. And I think it's understanding those bits, and it's not just we're not just getting in a piece of tech, and we're not just doing an e-learning course or anything like that to improve or be the solution for something. We're starting from the very beginning, like, what is the business, what does that do? Because ultimately without the business you haven't got the learning part anyway, because what's the point?
And I think you're absolutely right. We don't have templates in that traditional way, but we do have a methodology that we follow,
Yeah.
which is our process to understand that business, to really deep dive, to take advantage of being those fresh eyes and holding that mirror up and not being afraid to challenge, the status quo and ask the questions and help people guide through what's currently there. And that's part of that understanding phase. And I can think of a very, very recent client interaction where the client is presenting back what they think is a way they want to work through something. And actually, I had more knowledge than the client about their processes because I'd been looking at that holistically, and actually they were so stuck down in the detail of what they're delivering that the implications and the knock-on impact wasn't visible to them. So, and this is part of what we're doing, is helping people transition from what they've currently got. And one of the things I'm always really keen to emphasize with clients and to focus on is nothing you're currently doing is wrong. Because I've been there, I've been in organizations working in a team, and you're doing absolutely the best you can, and there's reasons why you are where you are, but it can be better. And I've had people helicoptered into roles above me or alongside me or whatever who come in and literally are just rubbish everything you've done, and come in and go, well, I've got this template, I've worked elsewhere, why aren't we doing it like this? So to me, context is key, but sometimes you get so caught up in the context that you need someone to come in and firstly get down there and understand that context and understand those constraints and have that empathy and be that partner to then help you, to bring you back up and show you different ways, or challenge your thinking, or challenge the preconceptions, or again, the old saying of we've always done it like we always did it. Well, there was a reason then, but has anyone stepped back and go, what was that reason originally valid, or was that just the only way you could do it at the time, and have those constraints and parameters changed around it? And I had someone ask me, what is it that we actually do as a business? And my response to them is probably the pithy response is, as a learning leader, we make you look good. We make you look really amazing in your role, because you have so many things to do in terms of managing internal politics, managing stakeholders, managing relationships, keeping the wheels turning on business as usual, dealing with all sorts of other things coming in, that having that strategic partner who is there not to take the limelight away from you, but to be your trusted advisor, to be your sounding board, and to be that person who can challenge you back and hold you to account. And the higher you get up in a learning role, the more lonely it gets. And you might have a network of people outside your businesses, and they can be a great support network, but do you really have someone who understands your context and challenges and can be there to guide you and add in expertise, etc.? So we become that additional arm and that additional superpower for that learning leader to be able to take forward and build their team. And we again support the learning leader and their team and their people, and depends on the types of business we're working with, but it could be a very small team, it could be a much larger team, but we come in and support the business where they need it, as they need it, and not where they don't. And I think that's a really important point as well, you touched upon earlier, is that so many consultants will come and try and think about, how can I go into that business for 6 months? You don't need to be in that business day in, day out for 6 months. It's far more important to go into the business and spend intense periods of time focusing on specific issues. So understanding and doing the discovery phase, so we understand your business, helping you build the strategy, then working out what energy and time do you have for delivery, because it might be that, and we know this in businesses, things don't happen all at once. You have times where you're not going to make any progress for a month because something else is going on, and we can fit into that rhythm of your business. So we can be doing things in the background, or we can be stepping away and not driving you to do something, but stepping back in when you need it. And again, I think that's slightly unique about our model, because we try to partner with them and deliver what they need, that we're not just going and saying, well, this is 6 months and we need to engineer work, so we're doing stuff every day for 6 months and force things in too quickly, or that don't really fit, or don't take the time, or don't have the buy-in across the business, because there's often, you come up with something, you come to a solution very quickly or a new strategic approach, but then you've got maybe 2 or 3 months of engagement with stakeholder teams to really bring them with you and then move on to the next stage of the project. And lots of businesses don't have that thought process in terms of matching what an organization and an individual needs.
I think we're at an advantage in that sense because we've worked internally for so many years. So we understand the challenges that our customers are facing. And we've kind of been there, done that. We understand that things can get delayed, different stakeholders, things take time, like all the challenges that are going to pop up in a project that you don't necessarily want to, but that they will happen. And things aren't necessarily going to go to plan and fit to timelines, but that's okay. And like you said, because we have got that flexibility, we can kind of come and go as that project works out, and we can best advise, I think, on that as well, to help manage that and help manage expectations of what projects will do and how they will work, etc. So we have got that level of experience and knowledge to be able to support our customers well.
And I think you'll see in other functions, possibly the approaches we bring being more readily established. So you might have business analysts as part of your IT team who are going in and looking at processes, looking at everything collectively. And one of the things I think is really challenging, and say for an example of where we might help someone, if someone is looking to change learning platform or do something different with any level of technology in learning or HR space or wherever it happens to be, one of the challenges you've got is it's very rare to have a one size fits all solution. It can seem easy and it can seem really tempting to think I can just do it in one go. And often people will pick that path of least resistance, and that might be right for the business because that one size might do everything you need for the next 2 or 3 years. But more often than not, what you've got is someone who is probably having to select a number of solutions that will work in tandem to help them move forward. They're then probably as well having to decommission a number of solutions that they've already got. So they might be moving from one system to another, tagging another on, and maybe they've got some legacy support systems or integrations to an HR or an IT system or something else. That's a hugely muddy place to be. And what we've found is those learning leaders may have amazing IT teams supporting them through, but they may not. And they've also got vendors who could be amazing, but all of those vendors are looking through their silo. So they've all got agendas that they come with. They've all got, they're trying to increase their revenue. They're trying to make their job easier. And that learning leader also has all of those other things, a day job and everything else. And this may be the first time they've ever selected a system, put in a system, thought about integration, and they're probably going to hit huge amounts of jargon, complexity, and maybe not have the time to step back and analyze those things. That's a pretty difficult place to be. But we sort of take it as read that those learning leaders are just going to get on with it without having someone else on their camp to step back, to negotiate between all of those parties and try and hold everyone to account in terms of delivering what's right for the business and the end user and the learning team and each stakeholder. And that's where we really do add value to customers, because we come in and help smooth that process. So we often hear that we can API into that, we can connect into that. And it sounds really easy. And I'm often someone who will say on a project, well, if we can say it, we can do it. And you can, but is it going to be the right solution? Is it going to create great user experience? Is it going to be very time consuming, too costly? Does it allow for change and agility and experimentation? So there's huge amounts of questions you're asking there. And unless you're doing that day in, day out, you're learning by your mistakes. And of course, we all learn by our mistakes, but do you really need to learn by every mistake? And having someone like us alongside that person can just give them a surety, confidence, and again, direction and learning from elsewhere. And so you can learn from our 100 mistakes without having to have made them before.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of our big plus points, I think, is saving people time and money, essentially, because we have walked the walk, we understand the challenges, but we have, like you said, made those mistakes. And we know what to look out for. We work with vendors, etc., all the time. So we understand what the processes need to be to get demos. We understand how quick things should be. We understand timelines, etc. So we're able to really kind of shorten that process, rather than starting from scratch and doing it all from brand new and not being 100% sure on things. We're able to shorten that process and let the customer just see the bits that they need to see that are important to them, rather than doing all the nitty gritty bits. We can take that away, and then that does ultimately save you time and money, if you think about it, because you're not spending all that time on doing it yourself. You're letting us do that and taking away all the kind of stress that comes with that.
And I think sometimes I've seen clients get stuck in the middle of all those external providers because they've all got different project methodologies, they've all got
Yeah,
different implementation approaches, they've all got different data protocols. And those things, you end up having to almost referee between them, or try and negotiate between them, and that's a really difficult thing to do. Even with the expertise, you have to be able to hold those people to account. And in effect, if you're doing that yourself as a learning leader, what you're not doing is giving yourself time to be the customer, and to, because
yeah,
you should equally be a stakeholder, and you sometimes spend so long trying to navigate between these things that actually delivering the best result for you and you being an equally heard voice becomes very difficult. So
yeah,
I think creating that space, time, and respect to the learning leader, HR leader, whoever is championing that change, gives them that time to step out of the detail as well, and make sure that they are having delivered what's right for them and something they can feel that they can own and that is going to make them look amazing.
yeah. I think it's like when you're working with vendors, it's really easy to look at all the bells and whistles that they've got on a particular solution system, whatever it is that they're selling. And like you said, if you're dealing with that all the time, it's hard to not focus on those things and not really link back to whether they're important or not for you. I think that's something that we often see a lot. People can go in and suppliers can then say, well, look, we do X, Y, and Z, and this is amazing, but people aren't looking back at actually why they're doing this in the first place. What's the purpose of it? Is that something that they really, really need? Um, and if you're dealing with all those suppliers and you're not used to doing that, I think you can get lost in what everyone's saying. And you're not seeing it from that kind of bigger picture because you don't have the time to do that as well. Whereas if we're helping people do that, we're able to take that level of work away because we've spoken to you as a customer. We understand the purpose, we've got your key differentiators, but we can then go to the vendor and we can highlight all of those to get the best demos, so they're highlighting that and they're actually solving the issues for you, rather than just showing you all the bells and whistles, but also letting you see that firsthand and actually make more of a, I think, a valid decision in the long run.
Yeah, and I think it's just, if you're sat there listening to this and thinking, well, I'm not sure, why should I get in touch? Well, how will this help me? Um, I view it, I love an analogy, as Katie and all of our customers will know. I love bringing things to life and I love travel. And almost feel it as if you were to fly into somewhere you knew nothing about, there's a couple of different approaches you could take. You could think, right, I'm going to do this myself and I'm going to wander off and work this out myself. I don't speak the language, but I'm confident I can do this. And you will get a certain way. Or you can sit on the pre-booked tour and think, right, I'm going to buy the one tour here. And those are almost the two options that people take. Is they'll say, well, actually, yeah, I'm going to do this myself, it'll be cheaper, etc., but you might miss a load of things, make mistakes, come back with 9 million mosquito bites
Be
and whatever
confused.
else, be confused and whatever else. Or you might get on the tour bus and just go down the same route that everyone else, because it's safe, it's generic, everyone else sees it, but that's not personalized to you. You're not seeing the things that are right for you. So yeah, you have a greatish experience, and that's going and just, you know, trusting your suppliers, or picking one supplier, or picking the first supplier, or just carrying on what you're doing and incrementally changing. And I'd see our option as that bespoke tour guide is going to spend that time getting to know you, how you like to travel, what you like to see, what's of interest to you. And when you get back on the plane to go home, everyone's had a 2-week holiday and you've had the most amazing one because it's been personalised to you. It's added value to you in all the parts that you need to be. And that's the service we offer. It's that like concierge service and that bespoke support through your learning strategy journey, tech selection. And you can get involved really easily just by getting in touch with us, and we can come in and do an initial review of what you've got, because we often find that works for clients, that even just doing that review process gives them so many things they can go away and own initially. It doesn't have to be a huge transformation. It's just that ability to review what you've got, what's working, what's not, take that step back, have someone facilitate you through that process. And that's often where our clients will start, because that becomes an easy way of you seeing immediate benefit of the approach that we bring.
Yeah, I think that's a really good analogy of our business, and I think it's a really good way to kind of sum up this episode as well, and kind of bring an end to this episode. I know we could talk about our business for a while, but if people do want to get in touch with us as well, we have got all of our information, all of our contact details on our show notes. And James and I are both on LinkedIn, so people can connect with us and link with us on there and message us. And we're happy to carry on the conversation and equally find out more about your business and how we could potentially help you.
Yeah, I think I'd just like to reiterate that that's sort of where we're our best and most passionate, is finding out about your business, finding out about your unique context and challenges, motivations, what's important to you, what's important to the people in your team and your stakeholders, and then working with you to create something that's really unique and impactful for your business. And I'd, you know, look forward to speaking to more people and getting to know further about their businesses.
Definitely. Thanks very much, James.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Learning Reinvented podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. If you've not already done so, please follow our podcast. And if the learning effect can help you and your organisation, please do get in touch. You can find both James and Katie on LinkedIn, and our contact details are in the show notes below.